What's going on, Flicks Talkers? Welcome back to another video. This time for a top list of hood movies that I do own. So in my personal collection, this isn't like any top 10 list of all time or whatever it is. It's just my personal collection of film. You know, I figured I have a whole shelf of physical media. I wanted to kind of dive deep into it and let you guys know what I have collected over the years. A lot of these are DVDs, but some of them are Blu-rays as well, just because either they haven't got a Blu-ray transfer or I'm just fine with collecting the DVD at a good deal, a couple of either like thrift store buys and whatnot. So now, before I get into everything, guys, what classifies a hood movie compared to, like, let's say a Casino, like Goodfellas, gangster type movie? So when we say hood movie, you guys can look up the Urban Dictionary definition. So it's pretty much that set in like a urban setting, usually African-American, Hispanic communities, and it usually deals with the day-to-day turmoil. A lot of them were set like in the 80s, 90s, and even before that as well. So it was just kind of like that lifestyle of the inner city neighborhoods. And a lot of these deal in LA because around that time, there was a lot of, Crips and Bloods. That stuff is still going on. Latin Kings as well. So you get a lot of this gang life activity, and they were really showing that a lot on TV at the time. So they just started making these movies on it. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on today, guys, in this first parter. So this is a part one because I just have so many in my collection that I really do love. They might not be 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5 pictures, but they are those that I grew up on. And I'm going to get into my first one now. And the first one that I did grow up on that I think a lot of you guys should check out if you haven't, which probably a lot of you guys have seen this one. It is Sean Penn and Robert Duvall's. It is Colors. And now, surprisingly, this was directed by Dennis Hopper, the actor Dennis Hopper from, Easy Rider. A lot of people know him from Speed as the villain in Speed. Excellent movie with Keanu Reeves. So, but I didn't even know that this was directed by Dennis Hopper until I read the directed of, at the bottom there. So this one pretty much is, you get a seasoned vet cop right there, as well as a young buck. So just kind of think Training Day. Most of you guys remember Training Day. You have the good cop, bad cop, Sean Penn plays this cop who's just a real dick. And, he's fresh on this anti-gang task unit. I believe it's called CRASH. I forget what the acronym stands for, but they are part of the LAPD, who a lot consider the world's biggest gang. And, they're just taking on these Bloods and Crips and just people that are in this gang area of LA. So it's kind of their turmoil, as well as a lot of situations that they get into. I won't get into it, guys, but Colors is definitely one of my top hood picks that I do own. Now another one, sticking with the Spike Lee, I just did see a Spike Lee joint, The Five Bloods, and it's also featuring Delroy Lindo right here, who was in The Five Bloods, who I thought was fantastic. You guys need to watch that on Netflix. But this one is a crime drama right here. Clockers, guys. Once again, a Spike Lee joint. One of my favorites. It also does star Mekhi Phifer as well as Harvey Keitel and John Turturro right there, guys. So if you have not seen Clockers, definitely check that one out. It does focus on the day-to-day of Mekhi Phifer's character, and he is a drug dealer and in these projects in New York City, I believe it is. And it's also produced by Martin Scorsese. So a lot of people don't know that Martin Scorsese and Spike Lee did work together. And I was actually watching some Spike Lee interviews saying that Martin Scorsese is one of his favorite directors of all time. He grew up on him and really looked to him, for just his films for guidance and inspiration. So this one also has a fantastic soundtrack. So usually in hood movies, there's a lot of, hip hop music and stuff, but this one kind of flips it on its head, and it kind of puts like an orchestra and just music that you wouldn't really expect in a hood movie or a crime drama type of movie. And I thought this was fantastic. It also does feature Fredro Starr from Onyx, as well as totally forget his name, but the one that played Blade in the television show, I think it was Sticky Fingers. That's right, Sticky Fingers. So definitely watch this one, guys. It's a little different. It also has a third act that I thought was phenomenally shot, fantastic cinematography. I just love the overall story and the underlying message of this film. Clockers is definitely one of my favorites, guys, from Spike Lee. Now, another one right here, guys, that is also set in New York. It's John Leguizamo's Empire. A lot of people seem to neglect this one. I think they thought it might have been like a one and done, but I think this really does have that, you know, longevity. It didn't come out too long ago. This one's a more recent, you know, before those two. Came out in 2003. So this was, you know, 2003. The other ones were from the 80s and 90s. I think actually this Clockers was 1995. So yeah, Empire, guys. So pretty much you have John Leguizamo as the top dog as far as like controlling like this borough, this section of New York. There's the 5 boroughs, and he does control a section of it as far as like the drug sales go. You don't want people to step over those territories, and you get to see a lot of those territories getting stepped on and the repercussions because of that. Fat Joe also does make a little cameo actor appearance right there, and he is one of the drug dealers in another borough, as well as Tretch by Naughty by Nature. He's actually like the right-hand man to John Leguizamo. You also get Denise Richards, who does play, I forget who she plays. She does hook up with this actor right here, who is actually Peter Skarsgård right here. And this is one of the first times I did see Peter Skarsgård, you know, early in the 2000s. And of course, I saw him later in Garden State. He does play someone that's a little different. It kind of thrown in there, you know, to kind of change the story up a bit, but he does link up with John Leguizamo, and they do have some shady business. So Empire right here, guys, is fantastic. It also features like one of my favorite Ludacris songs of all time. So definitely check out Empire if you guys can. I believe that one only got a DVD release as well. Jumping to one that's more focused on the Latino side, it is Blood In, Blood Out. Bound by Honor. I always forget that subtitle, Bound by Honor. Now, this is one of the longest, I believe, next to like American Me, which is, I think that one's like almost 3 hours as well. And I think this one might be over or close to 3 hours and 190 minutes. So this one right here focuses on a lot. This one does have, I believe Delroy Lindo's in this one as well. Yeah, I think Delroy Lindo's in this one as well. He always played in a lot of these type of movies, guys, but he is kind of shown later in the movie. But pretty much you got these 3 friends. You got one right here who's half white, half Mexican, and this is in Los Angeles as well, guys. And his name is Miklo. I totally forget the other. This is Benjamin Bratt right here, and it just kind of shows their trials and tribulations growing up in the inner cities, guys, in Los Angeles. I forget which section, which neighbor, but they are called Vatos Locos, and they have the VL, they tag everywhere, and it kind of shows them in the gang life earlier, you know, like I wouldn't say in their teens, but maybe like early 20s, and they're gang banging and you know, doing all that dirt, and you know, some of them do get caught up, and then it shows kind of like within like a 5, 6, 7 year span of how their life changes. Well, some of them do change, but some of them get stuck in that gang life. You also get this actor who I believe was in that new show on Starz called Vida. My girlfriend's watching that, and he plays this character who gets injured extremely bad, and he gets hooked on drugs. I don't want to spoil it, but he's like an artist, like the artist of the group, and he paints murals and stuff. It's fantastically done. One of the better Latin hood movies that I've seen. Usually they're like extremely cliche, but this one had excellent writing, guys. If you guys can, you always see it on DVD everywhere, you know, at thrift stores and stuff like that. Pick up Blood In, Blood Out if you guys can. Now, this one right here, guys, has a notable face. It is Fresh, and you guys see Sam Jackson. Don't let that fool you. He's not in the movie too much, but this movie does focus on young Fresh right here, and he is in New York, and he's pretty much a drug mule, and you know, he since he is younger, you know, it kind of goes off the radar of as far as transporting drugs from one area to another. A lot of cops don't look at him as like, you know, the prime suspect for those that transport drugs or sell drugs. And this one was excellent in the fact that in 1994, by the way, this one was awesome though, because it had Giancarlo Esposito, who you guys remember right there as Gus Fring from Breaking Breaking Bad. He's also in, Better Call Saul. So he does. This is about the first time I saw him. He does play one of the drug kingpins or drug lords, whatever you want to call it. Sam Jackson does play Fresh's dad, so we get to see a little bit about him. We find out that he's not homeless, but he's extremely poor. He lives in this motor home, and he constantly plays chess, and that's where I like it, because it's not following 100% the stereotypes. He really wants to work this muscle of Fresh, of getting the chess mind state, that life is chess, not checkers, and I absolutely love that. The directing of this is phenomenal. There is a couple of scenes with this character right here. This guy is one of the gangsters that's alongside Fresh, in their crew, and just a very, very powerful scenes. Fresh also has this young friend, this young Latin kid who wants to be the top dog. So they do focus on a lot of different things here, and I thought it was an exceptional movie. That one gets a 5 out of 5 for me always. Now, jumping over here, guys, this is a timepiece. It is Hoodlum. A lot of people don't like this movie for some reason. It always gets low ratings, but the cast, the acting, the clothing, I love the time period of all of this, guys. So you have Lawrence Fishburne, we all know him as Morpheus, Tim Roth, you have Vanessa Williams, and you also have Andy Garcia in it. Now, I don't remember seeing Vanessa Williams in too many films other than Soul Food and stuff like that, but her in this did a great job. She plays a love interest of Lawrence Fishburne. He plays Bumpy Johnson, who is an actual character. They actually just did a TV show, I think, called Godfather of Harlem, I think it is, with Forrest Whitaker, who's actually playing an older Bumpy Johnson. So if you guys are liking that series, definitely check out this movie. This is where it started from. And I believe this is in the late 90s. 1997. Okay, so definitely check out Hoodlum, guys, and it shows pretty much in Harlem. There's sections as well. Tim Roth holds a huge section of it, and as well as Bumpy Johnson getting out of jail and his contribution to the area, as well as Andy Garcia, his character, I forget what he plays. Lucky Luciano. That's who he plays. Lucky Luciano, and then Tim Roth plays. I know they call him Arthur Flegenheimer. That's his real name, but I forget what his Dutch Schultz. He changed it because they make fun of the Otto Flegenheimer. I love that. It didn't sound gangster enough, so he changed his name. Absolutely phenomenal gangster flick, and I call it Hood. I throw it in the Hood category because it is Hoodlum, but it's definitely an awesome crime drama, guys. If you guys can watch that, check that one out. I think it might be on streaming. Now, jumping to another timepiece, guys. This one takes place around the Vietnam War. It is Dead Presidents, so, late 60s, early 70s, I believe. And this one, it does feature, it has Chris Tucker. It has Lorenz Tate. That's who it is. Lorenz Tate right here. And you also get, it's a lot of people. Keith David as well. You get, Freddie Rodriguez, who was in a couple movies as well. Music by Danny Elfman. That's what I remember loving. The score of this, the tension was insanity. So a lot of people just remember it for this because there was a lot of people around that time, or even still now, who would dress up in this, face attire for Halloween, with the black beanie and whatnot. But don't let that fool you. That's only in the third part of this movie, or the last act of this movie. The first part, it focuses on Lorenz Tate, his buddy Chris Tucker, as well as Freddie, who I just named, Freddie Rodriguez. They're all high school buddies, and fresh out of high school, they all get drafted to war, or they voluntarily go to war, the Vietnam War, and it shows the life in there. Think of The Five Bloods, if you guys have seen that recently on Netflix. The Five Bloods, set in the Vietnam War. That's what these guys went through, and this is, besides that movie, this one is a excellent depiction of the Vietnam War. So do not sleep on this, guys. This has some more elements in it. And then afterwards, when they get out, they have to go back, life in New York. I believe this takes place in New York. I'm not exactly 100% which area of New York, but they go back to kind of their lives. And it shows that, how Army vets get treated and taken advantage of sometimes. So, in their case, they have to do what they got to do, and they end up robbing a bank. And this is kind of where Dead Presidents comes in. And, it also has, I already said Keith David. Yeah, Keith David does play a part in it at the end. And it also is produced and directed by the Hughes brothers. So definitely look them up, guys, their line of work, but definitely one of my favorites. I throw it on at least once a year. Now, the next one, guys, is one that you might not consider a hood movie, but kids is an essential. If you guys are into hood movies, I think, or even dramatic films that are well shot, Kids is a fantastic movie. You guys got to watch it. I know the subject material is a bit hard to kind of stomach. This one, obviously, you can see I got it for $1. I couldn't pass up on it way back because I didn't even have it in my collection. Now, I don't know if this has a Blu-ray release, but I always see it on DVD. So it's not really that hard to find, guys. And I don't think it's on streaming. I could be wrong. But yeah, this one does star a young Rosario Dawson and Chloe Savini, I believe that's how you pronounce it. That's her right there. And there's a young Rosario Dawson. So extremely young, like in their teens. And it's pretty much a day in the life, as well as Justin Pierce, who plays Casper. I think he passed away. Yeah, he did pass away in the early 2000s. We also saw him in Next Friday as Roach. Very, very sad. That was actually, I think, one of his last movies. But yeah, guys, this one right here, Kids, is pretty much a day in the life of this, this group that just all hang out. It's in New York. It's extremely just like gritty and raw, and one of them does contract AIDS, and they start passing that stuff around like coronavirus. It gets crazy. So there's like a little sub plot in there, but it's pretty much essentially just kids hanging out, teens doing just bad stuff, just like drinking and smoking, doing drugs, having unprotected sex, just like crazy wildness. There's an insane scene, I forget if it's in the middle of the movie or where it's at, where there's like it's at a skate park, and I'm not going to get into it, guys, but Kids, you definitely got to check that one out right there. It's a little different than most hood movie list consist of. Now this one right here, guys, and I'm wearing the hat right here, one of my all-time favorites, Paid in Full. I don't know if this movie gets slept on, but it definitely doesn't get talked about too much. Now, it's Miramax right here. They were putting out a lot of these kind of movies back in the day, early 2000s, and it does feature Cameron, one of my favorite MCs, as well as Mekhi Phifer, as well as Wood Harris right there from Remember the Titans, guys. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen that movie. And pretty much it's the characters of Wood Harris. It starts out, in New York. Once again, it's always New York or LA. Wood Harris is someone that's extremely broke. He works in a laundromat, making pennies, an hour. It's crazy. And this does take place in the 80s, I believe. And it's based on a true story. This did come out in 2002, by the way, when crack cocaine was like on the rise, guys. And it was extremely, pumped just in the inner city neighborhoods and stuff like that. So these drug dealers were taking advantage of that and selling it. And, of course, you got your own boroughs and stuff like that. But pretty much these two are friends, Wood Harris and Mekhi Phifer's character. And, Mekhi Phifer always lets them know, hey, if you want to get, out of your, lifestyle, if you want to make some money, come work for me and stuff like that. But I believe he is selling heroin, and then through, a crazy, fortunate for him situation, financially fortunate situation, Wood Harris's character, I believe he goes by Ace in the movie. He does stumble upon working with someone that sells cocaine, which became the drug of choice. So he becomes the man, quote unquote. And they just, they're friends that just start making money together. And then Cameron is, fresh out of jail. He starts working with Mekhi Phifer, and then they all start working together. And it becomes like, a big drug thing that happened. And this is based on a true story. You guys can actually look this one up. I forget what it was called, the documentary, but they always had it like on, selling it online and stuff like that. But Paid in Full is one of my favorites. And it also has Regina Hall in it as well. I don't know who does she play? I totally forget who she plays. Either the sister or the girlfriend or something. And actually, I think she plays the girlfriend of Wood Harris, Ace's character, as well as you get it's produced by Dame Dash. So Dame Dash from Rockefeller Records with Jay-Z and stuff like that. So you get this is a fantastic movie. The music is the music, it just sets me back. I mean, I'm not that as old as, those guys were, but I love early hip hop days, guys. And that one has an amazing soundtrack. Now, last but not least for this list, because I don't want to make this too long, it is Boys in the Hood. Wearing It, Boys in the Hood. I absolutely love this one. It's not going to be my favorite hood movie of all time, but it's definitely one that resonated, guys, just leaving this like long-lasting impression in my mind. Now, the reason why I don't like this one 1000% is because Cuba Gooding Jr. was someone that got thrown in there. He did a good acting job, but you could tell he's acting. He doesn't seem like someone that's from the hood. And that's where Ice Cube comes in, because Ice Cube is actually from the hood. So it's like when you throw someone in there that's not naturally an actor or someone that went to acting school, it gets a little kind of thrown off balance. So I guess he's a good counterpart of that. So pretty much the story of Boys in the Hood. And by the way, I had to pick up the 4K that came out recently. For this, I had it on DVD, but I had to upgrade it. It looks fantastic, by the way. So pretty much Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, he does play someone that's, just trying to better himself. He doesn't want to fall into that gang lifestyle. He does end up moving at a young age because he's getting into trouble at school and just starting fights and stuff like that. And then he ends up moving with his dad Furious, who's played by Furious Styles, who's played by Lawrence Fishburne as well. Once again, Lawrence Fishburne, they end up moving right across the street from, I believe it's across the street or somewhere close by, to Doughboy right here, who's played by Ice Cube. And he's someone who is just a gangster through and through. He doesn't care to just kind of better his life. He's good, being on the stoop, on the patio, just hanging out, drinking all day with his friends and stuff like that. And then you get his Cuba Gooding Jr.'s friend, who's a jock, and Ricky, who's just, looking to better himself. He's getting into colleges. He has a lot of offers just because he's a good football player, and it shows them. That's another thing of why I like this movie a lot, is because it shows them going through the SATs of a lot of times you don't see that. You don't really get to see the ones that want to get out. It's always just them focused in the hood, and that's kind of what, but these guys are trying to get out, as well as it shows Nia Long. So Nia Long does play the girlfriend of Cuba Gooding Jr. right there. So she has a part where, she's a good girl. She's going to Catholic school and whatnot, and Cuba Gooding Jr. is just trying to hook up. And the whole thing is like, them seeing if they're going to stay together in college or if she's going to move away and stuff. So there's a lot of like, things going on that he's trying to balance his life, as well as, gang life and a lot of things that are going on, because they all are friends. Oh, I forgot to mention too that Doughboy and Ricky right here are brothers. So it's crazy because they're opposite spectrums. Once again, one wants to stay, in the hood. The other one wants to get out and utilize his skills of playing football and stuff. So the first part of the movie, guys, it focuses on not first part, but maybe like the first half an hour of the movie. It's them as kids, and then, just them, it flashes forward to like their teenagers, like 19, 20 years old, something like that, and just trying to figure out what they want to do with their life. It has a really good soundtrack once again. And then Furious Styles, played by Lawrence Fishburne, is an excellent counterpart. He's like the excellent, very logical, dad that just, drops knowledge all the time, message all the time on these guys, just try to mold and shape their minds of what they can possibly do to get out of the hood. And I absolutely love that one through and through, guys. So yeah, that's going to be it for my top. I think that might have been 10 right there as far as the first part goes for hood movies. Now, once again, guys, hood movies are just those talking about, it's usually African-American and, Latino culture in the inner cities. And these are movies that I grew up on and I knew to love and just find a better appreciation for them. And once again, I wanted to focus on some of the physical media that I do have on the shelf. I know it's so easy to just get lost in this newer streaming, but we can't forget the classics, guys. And, these hood movies are something that I really grew up on, just through life, and my teenage years and preteen years and stuff like that. So give them a chance if you guys are into crime, dramatic movies. And, till the next one, guys. I don't know when I'm going to put out part 2, but yeah, check out some of the titles that I did drop in part 1. And if you guys did appreciate my list, please give me a thumbs up, as well as hitting that subscribe and bell notification for more like this, guys. Till next time, I'm gone. Peace.